Hey there, and welcome to our channel. Here we dive into powerful stories of women who rise above betrayal, heartbreak, and life's toughest challenges. Every story will move you, inspire you, and remind you of your own strength. So before we begin, hit that subscribe button, join our growing family, comment below where you watching from, and let's step into today's story together.
Christmas Eve plans. Christmas Eve always smelled like cinnamon and second chances. Maybe that's why I woke up hopeful, a feeling I hadn't trusted in months. I wanted to believe that this Christmas would be different, softer, kinder, healed. The kind of holiday you frame in your mind so you can forget all the sharp edges of the year behind it. So I started early. I placed evergreen garlands along the staircase, hung white lights across the mantel, and fluffed the red velvet bows until they looked like they had come straight out of a magazine. I even polished the silver candlesticks we had received as a wedding gift, the ones we never used anymore because dinners had turned from conversations to complaints. Still, I tried. Maybe I was trying too hard. Aaron was in the living room, sitting on the couch, scrolling through his phone instead of helping me bring down the ornaments from the attic. He didn't look up when I plugged in the Christmas tree and it glowed warm and golden, filling the room with that soft magic that used to make him pull me close. He just muttered, "It looks nice," without lifting his eyes. A hollow compliment, a colder version of a man I once married. I told myself he was stressed, work deadlines, the holiday pressure, the tension he said he was too tired to explain. So I kept decorating, humming quietly, touching each ornament like it was a wish I was afraid to break. But then something small, something stupid, made the hope inside me flicker. He kept smiling at his phone. Not a normal smile, but the kind that stretches slowly, secretly. The kind you hide when you're looking at something you don't want someone else to see. Or someone. I tried not to stare, but the question burned under my ribs. Who is he smiling at? I shook it off, told myself it was a meme or work or anything harmless, because I wanted, desperately, for this Christmas to mean something. A fresh page. I hung a glass ornament, a snow globe depiction of our first winter together. Aaron had given it to me during our first Christmas as husband and wife. He said, "No matter what storms come, we'll stay warm inside." Back then, it felt like a promise. Now, it felt like sarcasm. When he finally stood up, I almost sighed with relief. He walked over, slid his hands into his pockets, and looked at the glowing tree. "You really went all out," he said. "I wanted this year to feel special," I replied softly. He nodded, but his eyes flicked down to his phone again, the screen lighting up against his thigh. A message preview flushed too quickly for me to read, but long enough for me to see the name. A woman's name. I didn't let my voice tremble when I asked, "Is everything okay?" He locked his phone instantly, too fast, too defensive. "Yeah, just work stuff." He kissed my forehead like a parent comforting a child, not a husband touching a wife, and walked away. And for a moment, the house felt colder than the snow outside. I thought he was hiding a gift. Turns out, he was hiding history. I busied myself again, adjusting ornaments, straightening ribbons, anything to silence the quiet dread creeping into my chest. But then his sister called him from the dining room, and I overheard her say something that twisted the dread into something sharper. "So, did you tell her yet?" "Tell me what?" Aaron lowered his voice, but not enough. "No, not yet. I don't want it to ruin Christmas." My stomach dipped. Ruin Christmas? What could ruin Christmas that was already happening behind my back? I stepped into the hallway, but their voices disappeared. Silence thickened like fog. The garland in my hand suddenly felt heavier. The house I had filled with warmth now felt staged, like a set for a performance I didn't know I was part of. Still, I kept decorating, because sometimes when you sense your world is about to change, you cling to the pieces that feel familiar. The rituals, the routines, the illusion, even if you know it's slipping. I stepped back to admire the tree one more time, willing the magic to return, waiting for Aaron to come in and wrap his arms around me like he used to. He didn't. The lights glowed beautifully, but something inside me dimmed, and for the first time that night, a whisper found its way into my thoughts. Something's coming, and it isn't Merry Christmas. The private argument. The moment the dishes were cleared and the family faded into other rooms, I grabbed Aaron's wrist, gently. "We need to talk." He rolled his eyes. "About what now?" "As if you don't know," I whispered. "Why invite your ex? On Christmas?" He gave a short, irritated laugh. "God, Lena, don't be insecure." "Insecure?" My voice cracked, not from weakness, but from disbelief. "Aaron, it's not normal to surprise your wife by inviting the woman you dated for years." He cut me off sharply. "Stop being dramatic." Dramatic. He threw that word at me like it was a command to shut up. I stepped closer, keeping my tone calm, even though my pulse hammered. "I just want to understand why. That's all." He leaned against the counter, crossing his arms, his signature posture when he wanted to establish dominance. "It's simple," he said. "Valerie and I stayed friends. She's in town. She was important to me once. Adults don't freak out over stuff like this." Adults? A weapon disguised as a word. "I'm your wife," I said quietly. "Shouldn't my comfort matter?" He scoffed. "Everything isn't about you. Not tonight." His phone buzzed. He glanced at it. He smiled. Not at me. I felt something inside me fracture. A tiny crack, silent but sharp. "Why are you being like this?" I asked. He sighed loudly. "Because you're making a scene. You always do when you feel threatened." "I'm not threatened. I'm disrespected." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Well, maybe if you acted like an adult in front of my family, you wouldn't feel that way." The words hit harder than they should have. He didn't raise his voice. He did something worse. He lowered my worth. He walked away, leaving me standing there with the taste of humiliation thick in my throat. And I realized something chilling. It wasn't Valerie who made me feel small. It was him. He didn't raise his voice. He lowered my worth. He walked away, leaving me standing there with the taste of humiliation thick in my throat. And I realized something chilling. It wasn't Valerie who made me feel small. It was him. The breaking point. The wonderful taste of Chardonnay lingered, but it hummed the sweet secret of a sharp Tom and Jerry. But not the kind of thing you bring to Christmas dinner. I went upstairs to breathe, to gather myself, to keep from breaking where anyone could see. But as I stepped onto the landing, voices drifted from Melody's room. Aaron and his sister, talking, laughing softly. I didn't mean to listen, but then Melody said the sentence that pinned me in place. "So, Valerie's coming. She's gonna lose it when she sees how much you upgraded." Upgraded. The word echoed down the hall like an insult wrapped in velvet. Aaron chuckled. "She already texted me, said she can't wait to catch up." Catch up! My breath stopped. Melody teased, "I swear she worshipped you. Remember how crazy she was about you?" Aaron said, "I know. It'll be good to see her." Good to see her. Every laugh from that room felt like a hammer striking glass. I stood frozen, holding onto the wall for balance. Not because their words hurt, but because they confirmed everything I'd tried to deny. This wasn't nostalgia. This wasn't harmless. This was emotional theater. And I was the audience, not the wife. The crack inside me widened. I walked one step back, silently, then another. I didn't want them to know I heard, but maybe I wanted myself to hear. Because sometimes the truth doesn't sneak up on you. Sometimes it knocks. Sometimes it laughs. They didn't break me. They revealed themselves. I walked toward the guest bathroom slowly, each step heavier, even though something in me was becoming strangely lighter, almost like clarity. The mirror moment. The bathroom light flickered when I switched it on, a small, trembling glow that reminded me too much of myself. I stood before the mirror. My reflection looked unfamiliar. Not a wife, not a victim, not a woman preparing Christmas dinner, just someone who had been made to feel small in her own home. My eyes were glossy, not with tears, but with realization. This wasn't about Valerie. This was about the way Aaron enjoyed making me feel replaceable. I touched the cold porcelain sink, grounding myself, breathing slow and steady. If he wants Christmas chaos, I whispered to my reflection, he's about to unwrap it. And for the first time that night, the woman staring back wasn't fragile. She was calculating, focused, awake. I pulled out my phone, opened a message thread I hadn't touched in months, and typed 2 words. Are you free tomorrow? I didn't need to say who it was for. He'd know. I hit send. The message turned blue. Delivered. And so was the beginning of my surprise. He invited his ex for Christmas. He didn't know I'd bring the real surprise. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of anger, not because of jealousy, because of clarity. When someone shows you who they really are, your heart breaks, but your mind, it wakes up. So while the house settled into its midnight quiet, I slipped into Aaron's office, the room he kept locked, guarded, protected like a second home. Except he'd forgotten something important. Keys can be hidden. Passwords can be guessed. But patterns scream. I sat at his desk, the glow of the screen lighting my face in cold blue. My hands didn't shake this time. His laptop opened with a code I had memorized long before he stopped remembering my birthday. And there it was, the first folder. Memories. A name that used to be sweet. Now it tasted like betrayal. I clicked it. At first, it was harmless. Photos from vacations, work events, random sunsets. Then I saw a subfolder. Old stuff. Except it wasn't old. Not even close. Inside were photos of Valerie. Her in a red dress. Her laughing in a cafe. Her selfie in a hotel bathroom mirror. I clicked the info tag. Recently opened. Yesterday, 11:43 p.m. The same night he told me he was exhausted and going to bed early. My chest tightened. But not in pain. In confirmation. My eyes scanned further down the folder. Restaurant bills, bar receipts, parking garage check-ins. 2 plates, 2 drinks, 2 desserts. All on nights he claimed he worked late. Not coincidences, not misunderstandings, patterns. I clicked open a receipt from last week, the date circled with digital highlighter. December 12th, 9:16 p.m. Location, Enno's Bistro. The same place he proposed to me years ago. He had returned, just not with me. My breath left me in a slow exhale, steady and sharp. This wasn't snooping. This wasn't invasion. This was documentation, proof of a story he thought he controlled. I minimized the folder and opened his downloads. Another file blinked at me. December 20, reservation confirmation. Table for 2, 7 p.m., special request. Please prepare the holiday set. She loves it. She, not me. I leaned back in the chair, letting the weight of the evidence settle. My marriage wasn't just cracked, it was archived. And Aaron had been careless enough to leave the trail right on his desktop. People hide secrets in shadows, but liars? Liars hide them in plain sight, trusting darkness to shield them when the screen glows bright. I clicked the folder shut and whispered to myself, not out of sadness, but awakening. I wasn't snooping. I was auditing my marriage. I stood up, switched off the monitor, and walked out of the room. Each step felt stronger, clearer, sharper. Christmas wasn't ruined. It was about to get interesting.
The deleted folder. I should have gone back to bed. Pretended I saw nothing. Pretended my marriage was still the warm, safe place I decorated for Christmas every year. But truth has a way of pulling you by the wrist. So instead of sleep, I found myself back at his office door the next morning, before the sun, before the noise, before the lies woke up. This time, I didn't hesitate. I opened the laptop again, the cold blue glow greeting me like an accomplice. I clicked straight into the recently deleted folder. People forget something important about technology. Delete doesn't erase. Delete hides. And hiding only works when no one is looking. One file caught my attention immediately. A half-gray, half-faded folder marked with a single letter, V. Not even a name, just an initial, as if she'd become an entire category in his life. I clicked it. Inside were fragments, incomplete files, partially deleted images, things he thought were gone forever. But the truth? The truth always leaves fingerprints. The first file was a PDF. Flight confirmation, December 3rd. 2 tickets. A weekend trip. Destination, Seattle. He told me he was at a conference. The next file was a hotel confirmation. Same dates, same city, 1 king bed. I swallowed hard, not because it hurt, but because it confirmed what I already knew. He hadn't been working late. He'd been working on a parallel life. I kept scrolling. Restaurant bills, bar tabs, a receipt from a jewelry store, pendant, emerald stone. He'd never gifted me emerald. He always said the color didn't suit me. And then I found it. A photo. Just one. Not deleted fully. The thumbnail's still intact. I clicked it open. Valerie! Smiling. Sitting in what looked like his car. And wrapped around her neck? My green scarf. The one Aaron claimed he lost last winter. I pressed a hand over my mouth not to hold back tears, but to hold back the sound of disbelief turning into laughter. Because there she was, draped in the truth he tried to hide. That scarf wasn't expensive, wasn't luxurious, but it was mine. A piece of my life, my warmth, my story. And he'd handed it to her like it meant nothing. I leaned back in the chair and whispered to myself, voice steady, unshaken. He didn't lose the scarf. He lost me. He didn't lose the scarf. He lost me. I closed the folder, saved everything to my own drive, and shut the laptop with a soft click. The kind of click that sounded like a door closing. On a marriage. On a lie, on a man who didn't realize Christmas had just gotten a lot less jolly for him. Because if he wanted to bring ghosts of his past to our holiday, I was about to bring someone he'd never expect. Someone whose truth didn't need decorations. The financial trail. I should have stepped away, closed the laptop, taken a breath, pretended ignorance was still an option, but numbers sat on the screen like tiny clues begging to be understood. So I opened the joint account. The one we rarely used, the one he always said was for emergencies. Apparently, emergency now meant financing nostalgia. At first glance, nothing seemed odd. Groceries, utilities, gas, the quiet heartbeat of a marriage. But then I saw it. A transfer. Small enough to look innocent, large enough to feel intentional. $480 sent to V Partners Consulting. Consulting? Valerie didn't consult. She manipulated. She smiled like she understood people, but only understood control. I scrolled further. Another transfer, and another. All coded under different aliases, but the same receiving account. And then a bigger one. $1,750, tagged as holiday preparations. Funny.
I paid for every ornament, every garland, every plate on the table. So what exactly had he prepared? A cold laugh escaped me, sharp as cracking ice. I opened a spreadsheet and started matching dates. Nights he worked late, nights he helped his sister move, nights he needed space. Every excuse was now a line item. Love may lie, but numbers confess. And suddenly the truth wasn't overwhelming. It was organized, structured, mine. Love may lie, but numbers confess. I saved the statements, dragged them into a folder, and felt something inside me shift. Not pain, not anger, purpose. Christmas wasn't about to crumble. It was about to get accurate. The friend ally, Harper. I needed someone smart, someone outside the fog, someone who knew the legal weight behind screenshots and secrets. So I called the only person who'd never sugarcoat the truth. Harper. A paralegal with a memory like steel and a moral compass that refused to tilt. When she answered, she didn't say hello. She said, "You sound like someone who just discovered something big. Talk." So I did. I told her about the photos, the hotel receipts, the scarf, the transfers, the folder named V. Harper went quiet. The kind of silence that meant her brain was organizing evidence faster than I could speak. Then she exhaled slowly. "Lena, this isn't an affair. This is preparation." My stomach tightened. Preparation for what? For something he doesn't want you to survive cleanly. Her voice sharpened. "Listen carefully. Every man who hides money under aliases is planning one of three things: separation, financial escape, or insurance." I felt the room tilt. Harper continued, "Whatever Aaron is planning, be ahead of him. Get everything. Don't confront him yet. Document everything." For the first time in days, I didn't cry. I didn't crumble. I calculated. For the first time, I wasn't crying. I was calculating. Harper promised to run a quiet background check. I thanked her, genuinely, not desperately, because now I had an ally. And allies turn chaos into clarity. Operation Snowfall. I went to the guest room, the only space Aaron never entered, and closed the door behind me. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Like the pause before snow begins to fall. I opened my laptop and created a new encrypted folder. Snowfall. Because when snow falls, everything hidden becomes visible. Tracks. Patterns. Footprints left behind by liars. Into that folder, I placed everything. The photos, the transfers, the faded scarf picture, the hotel reservations, the suspicious consulting payments, Harper's notes, screenshots of late-night messages he thought I never saw, even the voicemail he left once calling me needy under his breath after hanging up. Piece by piece, the truth grew heavier, bigger, cleaner. This wasn't a folder anymore. It was a mirror he'd eventually be forced to look into. As I locked the folder with the password only I would understand, I whispered, "You wanted to surprise me for Christmas. Now I'll return the favor." The cursor blinked, like approval.
He hid his affair in shadows. I found clarity in cold light. The perfect guest. The snow outside painted the city white, serene and unassuming. It was the kind of Christmas Eve that promised warmth and laughter, a perfect backdrop for deception. Lena watched from the window, the reflection of the twinkling lights catching her eyes, and for a moment she allowed herself a small, private smile. She had chosen the perfect guest. Noah was en route, a familiar figure from her childhood, someone who had been a steady presence when the world shifted under her feet. But Noah wasn't just a friend anymore. He was a well-known lawyer, sharp, observant, relentless. And most importantly, he was Aaron's old rival, strategic brilliance wrapped in casual charm. Lena's mind replayed the months of preparation, every email forwarded, every hidden folder, every carefully timed message. She had built her chessboard meticulously, and now the pieces were moving into position. Aaron had no idea what waited for him. The doorbell rang precisely at 7. Lena's heart gave a subtle thrill, the kind that accompanies the first strike of a plan set into motion. She opened the door, greeted Noah with a warmth that masked their shared understanding. "Happy holidays," Noah said, his smile casual, but his eyes sharp, scanning the house with an invisible grid. He didn't need to ask what he was here for. Lena led him inside. Aaron was already lounging by the fireplace, a glass of champagne in hand, confidence radiating from every languid movement. He glanced up, expecting only the usual domestic Christmas cheer. If Aaron wanted a show, I'd give him front row seats. "Lena," he said, voice smooth, "you didn't tell me we'd have company." "Oh, it's a surprise," she replied, voice saccharine, eyes glinting like a scalpel. "Just someone I thought you'd want to meet." Aaron's curiosity was piqued, the kind that usually preceded arrogance. He leaned forward, unknowing of the storm about to enter his living room. Noah extended his hand casually, a polite greeting that masked an unspoken tension. He shook it, and in that brief contact, a subtle current passed between the two men, rivals, though unaware of the full stakes. Lena's smile never faltered. She poured the champagne, subtly observing Aaron's reactions. He was relaxed. Too relaxed, a dangerous arrogance. She could almost hear the gears turning in his mind, thinking everything was under control. Yet, control was an illusion. The documents, the hidden recordings, the texts were all already in motion. Aaron thought he was the conductor of the symphony, but Lena had written the score. Every note, every pause, every crescendo would land exactly where she wanted it to. Noah glanced at her, a silent acknowledgement of readiness. No words needed. Their pact had been made long before the first snow fell. The perfect guest wasn't here for small talk. He was here for precision. And tonight, Lena's plan would unfold in layers, invisible to the careless eye, unavoidable to the prepared one. As the clock ticked closer to 8, Lena let the warmth of the room settle over her like a cloak. Inside, she was calm, collected, a master of timing. Outside, the snow continued to fall, indifferent to the secrets about to be revealed. Because tonight, the Christmas lights weren't for cheer. They were spotlights, illuminating the stage for the reckoning that Aaron would never see coming. The double mask. Aaron laughed at a story Lena told, a simple anecdote about a childhood mishap, and for a moment, he let his guard down. Lena's lips curved into a practiced smile, warm, caring, affectionate. Every word, every glance, every laugh carefully calibrated. She was the picture of the loving, supportive wife. The mask of normalcy had never felt so powerful. He didn't notice the way her fingers lingered just slightly longer over her phone, the subtle messages she typed and deleted, the documents she forwarded to Harper's secure inbox. He was lost in his own world, mistaking her calm for submission, her silence for complacency. He thought my silence was weakness? It was camouflage. Aaron pulled out his phone mid-laugh. He typed a message chuckling as he did, "Valerie's coming over tomorrow. Can't wait to see you smile." Lena's heart didn't skip a beat. She read it, forwarded it to Harper with a small note, confirmation received. Then she tucked the phone into her clutch, smiling as though she hadn't seen anything. Throughout the evening, Aaron's arrogance grew.
He bragged about work achievements, his charm offensive, carefully designed for his own ego. He teased Lena playfully, showing her texts from Valerie as though flaunting them in plain sight. He assumed she wouldn't react. He assumed she wouldn't care. And he was right, in the moment. But in truth, every brag, every careless message was a gift. Lena memorized them all, stored every word, every picture, every hint of betrayal. Each one would find its way into the arsenal she had built. She laughed at his jokes, tilted her head in feigned adoration, sipped her wine in measured rhythms. Every motion perfect, every reaction rehearsed. She was a mirror reflecting the life he wanted to see. And in that reflection, he could not recognize the storm she carried. He believed he was the hunter, but he was walking into my trap. As Aaron leaned back, satisfied with the attention and admiration he assumed he commanded, Lena's mind raced through the night's timeline. Noah was quietly observing, noting the patterns, ready to intervene if anything veered off script. Lena had learned long ago that timing was everything. One misstep, one hesitation, could ruin months of preparation. Yet nothing faltered. Everything moved exactly as she planned. Aaron remained oblivious, arrogant, self-assured. Every flirtatious text he sent, every boastful anecdote he shared became another thread in the web she was spinning around him. And as the evening wound down, Lena caught his gaze from across the room, that smug, satisfied look of a man convinced he was untouchable. She smiled, a small, secret curve of her lips, the kind that could be mistaken for affection. But inside, her mind was a battlefield. Every strategy, every contingency, every secret weapon, ready to be deployed. He thought he was untouchable. He was about to learn the cost of underestimating me. By the time the clock struck 10, Aaron's confidence had peaked. He settled into the armchair, glass in hand, unaware that every word he had spoken tonight had been recorded, saved, and forwarded. He believed the night was just another Christmas Eve. He was wrong. Because in the shadows of his arrogance, Lena had already set the first pieces into motion. And tomorrow, every hidden truth, every betrayal would begin to surface. The slip. The night had grown quieter. Aaron had retired to his study, humming softly, while Lena tidied the living room with an effortless grace. Noah lingered near the window, eyes scanning the faintly lit street outside, a silent sentinel. Every movement Lena made was deliberate, controlled, calculated. Her fingers hovered over the phone again. The final set of documents, the ones that would tie every loose end together, needed to be sent to Harper. One click, one transmission, and Aaron's secrets would be safely out of his reach. Just as she hit send, a shadow fell across the doorway. Aaron. He had come back, unannounced, for a glass of water and caught her mid-gesture. For 4 heart-stopping seconds, Lena froze. Her chest tightened, pulsed thundering in her ears. Every ounce of composure she had painstakingly built threatened to crumble. Aaron's eyes narrowed slightly. "What are you doing?" His voice was casual, but the subtle suspicion undercut the warmth. Lena's mind raced. 1,000 lies rehearsed 1,000 times surged to the forefront. Her fingers remained still for a beat, enough to calculate the perfect response. Then she smiled, soft and unassuming, and said, "Just forwarding some work stuff to Harper. Thought he might want to see it before morning." Aaron blinked. Curiosity piqued, but not alarmed. "Oh, okay. Didn't expect you to be so diligent on Christmas Eve," he said, amusement creeping into its tone. He wandered back to the study, muttering something about work emails. Lena exhaled silently, feeling the tremor of near exposure slide off her shoulders. The documents had gone through. The threads had been woven without a hitch. And Aaron, arrogant, careless Aaron, remained blissfully unaware that the very email he assumed was harmless would soon unravel his carefully curated image. Noah, standing quietly nearby, gave her the faintest nod, acknowledgement, reassurance, approval. They had survived the first test, the most dangerous moment. And yet, Lena knew it was only the beginning. Every slip is a test, and every test is a lesson in precision. Back in the living room, Lena replaced the phone on the table, her calm smile returning instantly. She sipped her wine, allowing herself a single thought. Aaron's arrogance was his weakness. Every brag, every careless word, every open flirtation with Valerie had all been recorded, logged, preserved. His empire of lies was already teetering. The slip, though terrifying in the moment, had only strengthened her resolve. It reminded her of the stakes, of the need for meticulous timing. It reminded her that in the game of revelation, the smallest misstep could create the most devastating collapse, and she intended to orchestrate every collapse herself. Fear can paralyze the reckless, but it sharpens the prepared. By the time the clock struck 12, Lena sat quietly by the fire, imagining tomorrow. The red envelopes were ready, every lie and truth perfectly separated. She allowed herself a small, victorious smile. For the first time in months, she felt untouchable. Aaron, in all his arrogance, would never see it coming. Because the slip had been just that, a slip. And the execution of the plan? That was still ahead. The red envelope. The morning light filtered through frost-lined windows, spilling pale gold across the living room. Christmas music played softly from the speaker, but Lena heard none of it. Her mind was elsewhere, calculating, rehearsing, perfecting the final movements of her plan. On the table lay 2 red envelopes, identical in appearance, yet worlds apart in content. One was for Aaron, filled with lies, carefully crafted to maintain his fragile ego. The other was for Noah, filled with truth, evidence of every betrayal, every secret, every lie Aaron had built his life upon. Noah would be the one to deliver it at the exact right moment, like a Christmas morning wouldn't bring joy. It would bring justice. She picked up Aaron's envelope first, running her fingers over the glossy paper. Every word inside had been chosen to lull him into confidence, to make him believe he was still untouchable. It was a perfect trap disguised as a gift, a mirror reflecting only what he wanted to see. Next, she glanced at Noah's envelope, her expression unreadable. This one held the truth in full, the cold, undeniable truth. Every message, every hidden transaction, every whisper of Valerie's betrayal. Noah would be the one to deliver it at the exact right moment, like a surgical strike. Lena rehearsed her movements in her mind. Smile here, casual laugh there, feigned surprise when Aaron commented on the gift. Timing was everything. One wrong step and the illusion would crumble. She had practiced the smile, this calm voice, this patience for months. Perfection isn't luck, it's preparation disguised as ease. Aaron wandered into the room, humming along with the music, a glass of champagne in hand. His eyes fell on the envelopes. "Red ones? Who's been sneaky with gifts?" he asked, grinning. Lena tilted her head, eyes sparkling with the sweetness that masked the storm beneath. She said, "Just a little Christmas tradition I thought we could try this year. Pick one maybe, or you can wait." Aaron, too confident, too relaxed, chose without hesitation. He took his envelope, tearing it open casually. His brow furrowed, but only slightly at the unexpected photo inside. He would read, he would react, but never suspect the hands that guided him. Noah observed silently, the envelope for truth tucked neatly under his arm. He was the unseen executioner, waiting for the exact moment to step forward. Lena and he shared a brief, imperceptible nod. No words were needed. The choreography was flawless. For Aaron, the morning was a performance. For Lena, it was the culmination of months of planning, patience, and precision. Every subtle glance, every casual laugh, every feigned surprise had brought them here. And when Noah revealed the truth, the mirror would finally be held up to him, a reflection he could not escape. Some gifts are wrapped in paper, others are wrapped in consequences. Lena placed a hand lightly on the back of the chair, heart steady, mind calm. The stage was set, the players in place. Aaron had no idea that the moment he opened the wrong envelope, his entire life, or at least the illusion of it, would begin to unravel in front of everyone he trusted. And Lena? She would be watching, smiling, unshaken. Christmas morning wouldn't be a celebration. It would be the reckoning he had never seen coming. T-minus 12 hours. The house was quiet now, the chaos of Christmas morning still hours away. Lena sat on the edge of the bed, phone in hand, scanning the final confirmations. Every text had been forwarded, every document safely uploaded, every evidence trail backed up. Noah had double-checked, Harper had double-checked, and Lena herself had triple-checked. Preparation is the armor that turns nerves into power. Aaron's arrogance was still intact, blissfully unaware that the threads of his deceit had already been pulled tight. Each careless message, each boastful claim, each flirtatious confession had been captured, cataloged, and placed in its precise spot. The red envelopes were in position, one for lies, one for truth. The players were ready, the stage was set. Lena leaned back, letting herself breathe for the first time in hours. Her plan had been executed with precision, yet the anticipation thrummed in her veins like electricity. Every clock tick, every distant car horn, every faint jingle of decorations outside felt like a countdown. 12 hours remained. 12 hours until everything would change. Control is a luxury only the prepared can afford. She closed her eyes for a moment, recalling the months of preparation, the late nights, the hidden files, the rehearsed smiles, the careful silences. Each sleepless hour had led to this. The thought of Aaron's inevitable shock, the realization of his betrayal, the unraveling of his arrogance, it was intoxicating in its inevitability. Noah had retreated to the guest room, his presence quiet but potent. She could feel his readiness, the silent assurance that, when the time came, he would step in exactly when needed. Every ally, every resource, every contingency had been considered. Nothing was left to chance. Even the smallest detail can ignite a storm, and every storm has its architect. She whispered to herself, almost ceremonially, as her hand rested over the envelopes on the nightstand. Tomorrow I unwrap my power. Her voice was soft, calm, unshaken. The words were both a promise and a warning, a mantra to steel herself for the day ahead. The final 12 hours would be spent in patience, observation, and quiet anticipation. Every action, every smile, every gesture in the morning would be calculated, deliberate. Outside, the snow continued to fall, undisturbed by the drama inside. Inside, Lena felt a serene clarity. The chaos of betrayal had been transformed into strategy, and the power she held was absolute. Aaron thought he controlled the game. He hadn't even seen the board. Some gifts are wrapped in paper, others are wrapped in consequences. She placed a hand lightly on the back of the chair, heart steady, mind calm. Tomorrow, the lies would collide with the truth, and Aaron's carefully curated world would crumble in plain sight. And Lena? She would be watching, smiling, unshaken. Christmas morning wouldn't be a celebration. It would be the reckoning he had never seen coming.
12 hours. The house was quiet now, the chaos of Christmas morning still hours away. Lena sat on the edge of the bed, phone in hand, eyes scanning the final confirmations. Every text had been forwarded, every document safely uploaded, every evidence trail backed up. Noah had double-checked, Harper had double-checked, and Lena herself had triple-checked. Preparation is the armor that turns nerves into power. Aaron's arrogance was still intact, blissfully unaware that the threads of his deceit had already been pulled tight. Each careless message, each boastful claim, each flirtatious confession had been captured, cataloged, and placed in its precise spot. The red envelopes were in position, one for lies, one for truth. The players were ready, the stage was set. Lena leaned back, letting herself breathe for the first time in hours. Her plan had been executed with precision, yet the anticipation thrummed in her veins like electricity. Every clock tick, every distant car horn, every faint jingle of decorations outside felt like a countdown. 12 hours remained, 12 hours until everything would change. Control is a luxury only the prepared can afford. She closed her eyes for a moment, recalling the months of preparation, the late nights, the hidden files, the rehearsed smiles, the careful silences. Each sleepless hour had led to this. The thought of Aaron's inevitable shock, the realization of his betrayal, the unraveling of his arrogance, it was intoxicating in its inevitability. Noah had retreated to the guest room, his presence quiet but potent. Lena could feel his readiness, the silent assurance that when the time came, he would step in exactly when needed. Every ally, every resource, every contingency had been considered. Nothing was left to chance. Even the smallest detail can ignite a storm, and every storm has its architect. Lena whispered to herself almost ceremoniously as her hand rested over the envelopes on the nightstand. Tomorrow, I unwrap my power. Her voice was soft, calm, unshaken. The words were both a promise and a warning, a mantra to steel herself for the day ahead. The final 12 hours would be spent in patience, observation, and quiet anticipation. Every action, every smile, every gesture in the morning would be calculated, deliberate. Outside, the snow continued to fall, undisturbed by the drama inside. Inside, Lena felt a serene clarity. The chaos of betrayal had been transformed into strategy, and the power she held was absolute. Aaron had thought he controlled the game. He hadn't even seen the board. Some unwrapped gifts. Others unwrapped consequences.
She set the phone aside, letting the quiet settle around her. Tomorrow, the lies would collide with the truth, and Aaron's carefully curated world would crumble in plain sight. And Lena? She would watch every reaction, every flicker of realization, every heartbeat as the perfect storm she had built swept through his life. Because Christmas morning would not be about cheer. It would be about reckoning, about justice, about showing that even the most arrogant, most careful liar could be outplayed if you were willing to wait, to plan, and to strike with precision. And Lena had waited, she had planned, and she was ready.
The party begins. The house smelled of cinnamon, roasted pine, and simmering anticipation. The lights glimmered off the ornaments, red and gold, each reflection catching the edges of the meticulously set Christmas table. Lena stood in the kitchen doorway, observing the scene she had orchestrated. Everything looked like a perfect holiday. Warm, inviting, deceptively serene. Aaron arrived first in the living room, still humming the tune from the radio, his grin wide, unguarded, full of arrogant confidence. He thought the day belonged to him, thought his carefully curated image of perfection would survive another Christmas morning untouched. He brought history into my home. He didn't expect truth to follow. Then Valerie appeared, red dress hugging her frame, heels clicking sharply on the polished floor. Her smile was smug, deliberate. She knew the effect she had, and she loved it. Aaron's face lit up in a way no husband should, a sparkle in his eyes that betrayed months of clandestine excitement. Lena's lips pressed into a measured smile, calm and composed. She didn't flinch, she didn't react. Every motion was deliberate. Noah lingered quietly near the doorway, hands folded, eyes observing every interaction with hawk-like precision. He was ready, waiting for the exact moment to step forward. But for now, he was invisible. Lena's perfect guest, her silent executioner. The first course arrived. Laughter, clinking glasses, light conversation filled the room, a deceptive calm masking the storm beneath. Aaron leaned closer to Valerie, joking, whispering, sharing secrets in plain sight, assuming no one noticed. But Lena noticed. Every glance, every smirk, every gesture was noted, stored and catalogued in her mind for the perfect timing. He believed the stage was his, but the script had already changed. She moved gracefully between the kitchen and dining room, pouring drinks, adjusting plates, offering light conversation with the other guests. Each smile was a blade, each nod a calculated reassurance that everything was under control. Aaron remained oblivious to the undercurrent, blind to the storm gathering silently around him. Lena caught his hand, brushing Valerie's as she reached for the wine bottle. She froze only for an instant, 4 heartbeats, then smiled sweetly and stepped closer, casual, unthreatening. Her calmness disarmed suspicion, masked her intent, made her invisible in plain sight. The most dangerous woman is the one who seems harmless. The ornaments shimmered under the soft white spotlight Lena had arranged over the dining table, red and gold glowing like a warning. Every reflection, every angle, every detail was intentional. This was no longer just a dinner, it was a stage, and when the time came, the lights would reveal what had been hidden for months. She took a deep breath, steadying herself, remembering the envelopes, the messages, the months of preparation. The reckoning was near. Every guest, every smile at Lena would be a countdown to exposure. Valerie's smirk, Aaron's arrogance, and the cozy domestic scene all would unravel under the weight of truth. He lit up for her, but he wouldn't survive the spotlight she had prepared. Lena took her seat at the table, elegant, poised, untouchable. Her eyes flicked to Aaron, then to Noah. Every moment now was deliberate, a step toward the inevitable collapse of lies. Christmas morning was no longer about celebration, it was about revelation. Because tonight, the most arrogant man in the room would face the mirror Lena had built, and there would be no escaping the reflection. Noah arrived. The room hummed with quiet conversation, the soft clatter of cutlery, the low murmur of holiday music, until the door swung open with a deliberate precision. Everyone froze. Even the Christmas lights seemed to dim, shadows falling sharply across the room. Noah stepped inside, tall, composed, radiating a confidence that made the air itself shift. His eyes locked on Lena's for a brief second, a silent acknowledgement of the months of planning, the hidden arsenal she had amassed. Then, casually, he began to move toward her. He thought I was alone. I brought consequences. Aaron's smile faltered. Just a twitch at first, almost imperceptible, then a full collapse into confusion as realization dawned. This wasn't a casual guest. This wasn't a friend of the family he could charm with a few words and a glass of champagne. This was a threat, embodied in calm precision. Valerie's hand froze midway to her lips, her wineglass trembling slightly. The room's chatter vanished. Every head turned. Every eye followed the pair as Noah stopped before Lena, embraced her warmly, confidently, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. A simple hug, but in its calm certainty, it radiated power, preparation, and inevitability. Aaron's eyes narrowed. His arrogance, so carefully nurtured, faltered under the weight of realization. He understood in that moment, Lena was not just smiling, not just waiting, not just patient. She had been orchestrating this all along, and now her first piece had arrived. He believed in control, but control was never his to keep. Noah straightened, his eyes scanning the room with subtle precision. He didn't speak immediately. He allowed the tension to settle, allowed the whispers and sideways glances to ripple through the room. Valerie's smirk disappeared completely, replaced by thinly veiled fear. Lena, seated elegantly at the table, didn't move. Her calmness was deliberate, her poise perfect. Every flicker of her expression, every slight tilt of her head was designed to amplify the tension, to showcase Aaron's unraveling without a word from her. The room waited. The liar realized the game was over before it even began. Noah finally spoke, calm but firm. "Merry Christmas, everyone." His words were simple, but in their delivery lay a promise, a reckoning. Lena's hand brushed lightly over the red envelopes at her side. The time for subtlety had passed. The reveal. Noah reached into his briefcase and placed a stack of meticulously organized documents on the table. Financial transfers, unauthorized accounts, hidden contracts, all the evidence Lena had gathered over months. Every number, every transaction, every lie Aaron thought buried was laid bare, exposed in clean, undeniable detail. Aaron's confident smirk wavered, his hand freezing over his champagne glass. The carefully constructed image of control dissolved in an instant. Valerie's gasped, choking on her wine, as her own complicity became clear in the harsh light of truth. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. At that moment, Harper arrived, documents in hand, legal authority behind every sheet. The room seemed to tilt, the white spotlight above the table casting harsh shadows that highlighted every faltering expression, every flicker of fear. Aaron's family watched in stunned silence, comprehension dawning piece by piece. Lena's eyes were calm, collected, untouchable. She gestured ever so slightly toward Noah. "Go ahead," she whispered, though her voice carried across the room. Noah began, articulating every fraudulent transaction, every concealed message, every betrayal. The words were surgical, precise, unstoppable. Aaron's face drained of color, his arrogance replaced with panic. Valerie's whispers reached his ears. "You said she wouldn't find out." "A liar's worst nightmare is exposure. I brought two." Every member of the family turned, eyes wide, as Aaron tried to justify, to explain, to charm. But the evidence was irrefutable. His carefully curated lies crumbled in real time, replaced by shock, humiliation, and inevitable defeat. The Christmas morning that had promised cheer now became a stage for poetic justice. The curtain rose, and the man who hid in shadows faced the light. Lena remained poised, serene, watching every reaction, every heartbeat, every flicker of realization.
Aaron, once untouchable in his arrogance, was now a spectacle, his lies dismantled by the two people he had underestimated most. The room was silent, but for the quiet authority of truth being delivered piece by piece, like a storm consuming everything in its path. The collapse. Aaron's eyes darted across the table, panic seeping into the corners of his arrogant facade. He tried to regain control, voice trembling as he sought a scapegoat. "Valerie, it's your fault. You pushed me into—" But Valerie's smirk had vanished. The smirk replaced by cold fury, sharpened by months of complicity now turned against him. Her voice rang out, cutting through the tense silence. Me? Aaron, don't you dare. After everything you've done behind my back, it was always you. I played my part, yes, but you lied, cheated, and thought no one would ever catch you." The words hit like shards of glass. Aaron's face drained of color, his arrogance shattered, replaced by shock, then desperation. His hands clenched the edge of the table as his world, once carefully controlled, crumbled. The room had shifted entirely. Christmas dinner, once a tableau of warmth and tradition, transformed into a courtroom. The clatter of cutlery, the soft hum of the Christmas playlist, everything faded beneath the weight of truth and accusation. Every guest became a silent witness, every expression a judgment. Aaron's parents exchanged looks, disgust written plainly across their faces. Years of unawareness and trust unraveled in an instant. Unable to stomach the spectacle, they rose from their seats, murmuring excuses, and left the room in a quiet storm of disapproval. The subtle thud of the door echoed, marking the collapse of Aaron's carefully constructed image. He tried to manipulate, but the table had already decided his fate. Valerie's eyes flicked briefly to Lena, acknowledging a silent victory, then returned to Aaron. Every accusation she made, every revelation she uttered, layered upon the evidence Noah and Harper had already presented, magnifying the inevitability of his downfall. Aaron's attempts to justify, to charm, even to beg, fell flat, drowned in the course of truth. And Lena, calm as ever, observed the destruction she had orchestrated. Her posture impeccable, her hands resting lightly on the table, every small movement deliberate. She let the chaos unfold naturally, like a conductor letting the symphony of consequences play its final notes. He had brought chaos into my home. I let it consume him, elegantly. By the time the room had settled, Aaron slumped back in his chair, silent, defeated, humiliated. The collapse was complete. The arrogance that had once defined him was gone, replaced by shame, regret, and a hollow realization of what his choices had wrought. The exit reversal. Lena rose from her seat, smooth and poised. Every eye turned toward her, but she didn't flinch. Her heels clicked softly against the polished floor as she made her way toward the front door. Noah followed silently, a shadow of calm assurance at her side. Power doesn't ask for attention, it commands it in silence. Aaron scrambled from his chair, hands reaching out, voice cracking with desperation. "Lena, wait! Please don't do this! I can fix it! I can explain!" But she didn't look back. Not once. Her steps were measured, deliberate, each one a statement. The future she had reclaimed, the control she had seized. Behind her, the remnants of his arrogance lay in ruins, scattered across the dining room like broken ornaments. Noah held the door open. Lena's hand brushed against his briefly, a silent acknowledgement of shared victory and unspoken understanding. Together, they stepped out into the crisp winter morning, leaving the chaos and shattered lies behind. Some exits are quiet, others echo through a lifetime of reckoning. Aaron sank to the floor, hands pressed to his face, knees shaking, a man stripped bare by exposure. His pleas faded into nothing, swallowed by the cold clarity of reality he could no longer manipulate. The family, once part of his carefully curated audience, had witnessed the full extent of his deception. The spotlight of truth, harsh and unyielding, had exposed every flaw, every betrayal, every misstep. Lena's exit was her final move, the closing of a chapter, the assertion of absolute power over a man who had underestimated her at every turn. And as the door clicked shut behind her, the chill of winter outside contrasted sharply with the heat of triumph in her chest. Aaron's past had followed him to Christmas. But Lena? She had brought his future to its knees.
1 year later, the city skyline glimmered through Lena's office window, winter lights soft and diffused across polished floors. 1 year had passed since the Christmas that had rewritten her life and Aaron's. 1 year of quiet triumph, meticulous rebuilding, and purpose reclaimed. Lena moved through her office with ease, a tablet in one hand, a planner in the other. Behind her, a framed photograph captured a moment from that fateful morning. Snow outside, red envelopes on the table, Aaron frozen mid-smile, oblivious to the storm. She hadn't glanced at it in months, yet the memory still carried the thrill of precise victory. Revenge built the stage. Purpose built the legacy. Her program, a woman's financial recovery initiative, was thriving. Betrayed wives, women who had once felt powerless, now turned to her guidance, learning to navigate the murky waters of deceit, mismanagement, and hidden abuse. Each session, each plan, each success story felt like a reclamation, not just of money, but of control, self-respect, and future potential. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. She looked up, smiling warmly at a new participant entering, unsure but eager. Lena gestured to a chair, her poise calm, confident, unshakable. She could see the fear, the hesitation, the buried anger, all of it mirrored the same fire she had once held. The fire that once fueled revenge now ignited empowerment. Lena began her session, guiding the woman through strategies, sharing insights, teaching subtle yet powerful methods to regain control over one's life. Every word she spoke carried authority and empathy. She had transformed the meticulous precision that dismantled Aaron's world into tools for rebuilding others' lives. Between meetings, she reviewed reports from her growing team. Success stories flowed in, women who had regained assets, renegotiated settlements, and reclaimed dignity. Lena's heart swelled with a quiet satisfaction. This was a far deeper, more lasting triumph than any momentary victory. This was legacy. The storm had passed, but its lessons became bridges for others. In the evenings, Lena allowed herself brief reflection. A walk through the city streets, lights twinkling in shop windows, reminded her that life continued to move forward. She no longer carried the weight of anger or the need for constant vigilance. The chaos Aaron had brought into her life was now a memory, sharp, instructive, but ultimately behind her. Her phone buzzed with a message from Noah, a simple note, no words of celebration, just acknowledgement of shared understanding. The world is different with the right choices. She smiled, typing back an equally simple reply, her heart calm, her mind steady, her purpose clear. A single year can rewrite a life if guided by purpose, not vengeance. As the sun set over the horizon, Lena gazed out over the city, the snow long melted, the air crisp but free of tension. She had stepped from the ruins of betrayal into a life she now commanded, one of empowerment, clarity, and enduring influence. Revenge had been the spark. Her legacy was the fire. Aaron's downfall. Months had passed since Lena's meticulously orchestrated Christmas. The fallout was swift and unrelenting for Aaron. Once untouchable, he now faced the harsh consequences of arrogance and deceit. His career, built on charm and manipulation, crumbled under the weight of revealed corruption. Clients left, contracts vanished, and word spread fast. The man who once controlled perception now faced public disgrace. Valerie, too, had walked away, leaving behind the remnants of a partnership built on secrecy and selfish indulgence. The red dress that once symbolized allure and power now became a memory of complicity and betrayal. Aaron's attempts to regain stability were futile. Every move he made was scrutinized. Every word weighed against the evidence Lena had exposed. He tried to reach out once, sending a carefully worded apology letter. His handwriting, usually precise, now trembled with desperation. He begged for understanding, claimed remorse, pleaded for a second chance. Forgiveness is optional. Moving on is mandatory. Lena held the letter in her hands. The edges felt heavy, the ink like a whisper from a man who had underestimated her. She read it once, quietly, her eyes scanning each feeble attempt at manipulation. Then she placed it unopened in a drawer, the gesture absolute, decisive. No words, no hesitation. Closure didn't require dialogue. Closure required action. In this case, deliberate inaction. Her life continued unshaken. The program thrived, women flourished under her guidance, and Lena walked through her days with calm certainty.
Aaron's failures, Valerie's retreat, the collapse of the world he had built, all were reminders that power misused is always temporary. She had taken hers and forged it into something enduring, something constructive, something far beyond petty revenge. Some wounds fade, some lessons last. He learned both too late. Lena smiled to herself one evening, reviewing reports from her program. A former client had regained her independence, another her savings, another her confidence. In the distance, snow began to fall lightly, a quiet echo of that infamous Christmas morning, but Lena no longer feared its chill. It was merely a reminder of the past, a past that had been transformed into empowerment, proof that she could rise stronger than any betrayal. A new Christmas. A year later, Lena hosted Christmas again, but the scene was transformed. Gone were the shadows of deception and heartbreak. In their place were laughter, warmth, and genuine camaraderie. Friends, colleagues, and empowered women from her program filled the room with joy, their presence a testament to resilience and reclaimed life. Lena moved through the room gracefully, placing ornaments on the tree with care. One ornament stood out. A single, cracked snowflake, its fissures catching the glow of the lights. It was not a wound, not a symbol of pain, but a reminder of strength and survival. The fracture in the delicate glass reflected the journey she had endured, proof that beauty and resilience could coexist. Laughter bubbled from the kitchen, mingling with soft music in the background. Glasses clinked, voices rose in cheerful song, and the room felt alive with genuine connection. Lena's heart swelled not with triumph over a defeated adversary, but with the quiet satisfaction of life reclaimed and transformed. Healing is not forgetting, it's choosing what to carry forward. She paused briefly near the window, snow falling gently outside, and allowed herself a moment of reflection. Aaron's downfall, Valerie's retreat, the chaos of the past year, they were all distant echoes now. What remained was clarity, purpose, and a life she had built on her own terms. The fire of revenge had cooled into the warmth of legacy. Friends approached, sharing stories, laughing at old memories, and celebrating victories small and large. Lena joined them effortlessly, her smile genuine, her presence commanding yet inviting. The cracks in her past had become facets of her strength, reflected in the warmth that now filled her home. The past may shape you, but it does not define you. You choose the reflection you leave behind. As the night deepened, Lena hung the final ornament, the cracked snowflake, with care. It glimmered under the tree lights, a quiet testament. Some scars are meant to shine, some lessons to guide, and some victories are meant to be lived in the open, celebrated with those who helped you rise. This Christmas was different. It was hers, peaceful, powerful, perfectly earned.